Good morning, you're very welcome along to Ireland AM on Virgin Media 1.
You certainly are. It's Wednesday, August the 2nd. Here's a look at what's coming up today.
We have got a mental show today, to be honest
Do we?
with you.
Is that different from any other day?
Particularly mental, I think, today. But anyway, first up, phubbing. What is it? It is the habit of snubbing someone in favour of your mobile phone. Later this hour, we're going to be chatting to an expert all about smartphone etiquette.
Let us know what you do. There was one thing I was reading about it last night. At dinner, we shouldn't have the phone out at all.
I know.
You wouldn't survive.
But I mean, just like, do you know, do you talk to your partner in the evening, or do you just
go 0896 111 111. Also on the show, we've got a masterclass in menopause. Are we teaching you how to get it? I'm not sure. No, we're going to be meeting the organiser behind an upcoming event which aims to debunk the myths and taboos around menopause.
We have a masterclass in pooing also coming up, I gather, too. Plus, we're meeting the...
We genuinely do. There is something coming up to do with the
meeting the Kerry man behind what is considered to be the biggest stunt in cinema history. Look at that, Tom Cruise. We're going to be finding out how his epic bike stunt from the latest Mission Impossible was conceived in Dingle, no less.
There we go. Alan.
He did that 5 times. Wow.
No, he's not listening. Alan?
I'm phubbing you. I'm phubbing you.
Are you phubbing me?
I'm phubbing you right now.
Is it phubbing or phubbing?
Phubbing.
Right, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm phubbing you.
Yeah.
Oh, phub off.
That's a first. Oh, it's going to be one of those days again.
Oh, here we go. Welcome to Ireland AM. It's the new TikTok trend that, listen to this, it's gotten over 534 million views. Girl dinner. Now, this is just people showing you their favourite snacks on a plate. 534 million views. Now, Edward Hayden is here and he's going to take on, well, we're going to see his version of a girl dinner. It'll be beautiful, it'll be laid out fabulously, it'll be on Waterford Crystal, maybe Galway Crystal, we don't know. Yep. But Edward Hayden's going to show us his girl dinner a little later on. Now, ahead of the Camogie final this weekend, Derek is in a very wet Crow Park this morning. Good morning to you, Derek.
Well, Al, we had half a day of sunshine yesterday and a return to rain out there for the 2nd of August. Plenty of wet weather right across the northern half of the country and no let up in it really right across today. But as you mentioned, Al, we're here in Crow Park just over my shoulder following the men's hurling and football finals. Attention now turns to the women's camogie in football, of course. Cork taking on Waterford in the camogie. Dublin taking on Kerry once again in the football. Can the Daoise County break that 78-year curse? They haven't won a camogie All-Ireland since 1945. We're going to be previewing the 2 games later on this morning and hopefully it dries up a little bit later on. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks very much.
Tuesday.
Fair play to you, Derek. He puts himself out there in all sorts of weather. And yes, it is particularly miserable out there this morning. Now it is time to get over to the Virgin Media News Hub. Over to Al O'Donnell.
Thanks, Tommy. Good morning. Well, Gardaí in Monaghan are saying that first responders who attended the aftermath of Monday's fatal crash are hugely devastated and are suffering from shock and trauma. 17-year-old Kia McCann and 16-year-old Dalava Mohammed were killed in the accident en route to a Debs ball. 2 others were critically injured in the accident.
This was a particularly traumatic incident for everyone involved. And I wish to acknowledge and thank all of the first responders who work closely together. This tragedy continues to be extremely traumatic for our local community, particularly in the Clones and Monaghan area. We will continue to work closely with the teaching and management staff of Larragee College to support the students and staff who have been affected by this terrible tragedy.
The former US President Donald Trump has been charged by the Justice Department in America for his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Well, the 4 charges include conspiracy to defraud the United States government and also witness tampering. It's the 3rd criminal case to be brought against the former president as he's seeking to reclaim the White House. Well, Donald Trump is due to appear in court tomorrow.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election.
Back home, school costs remain too high. That's according to Barnardo's in its annual Back to School survey. Well, among the secondary school parents surveyed, nearly 1/3 said that they were very concerned with meeting costs this year.
Every year, the charity Barnardo's releases a survey that puts paid to the notion of free education in Ireland. This year is no exception. Parents say they're expecting to pay on average €320 for fourth-class primary school students. For those starting secondary school, this number triples to over €970 and is similarly high right up to fifth year. A third of primary school parents said cost of living increases have made it much more difficult to meet school costs. But for secondary school, this number climbs to 50%, where parents are paying €77 more on average compared to last year. Nearly 30% of these secondary school parents said they were very concerned with meeting costs this year. 7% said they simply wouldn't meet them. In contrast, due to the free school book scheme introduced this year, primary school parents will be paying around €80 less. Barnardo's is calling for free school books to be extended to all secondary schools. It also wants an increase in clothing and footwear allowances, an extension of the child benefit, and an end to so-called voluntary contributions. Obi Robinson, Virgin Media News.
Elsewhere, hundreds of European nationals are being evacuated from Niger in the wake of a military coup that has plunged the West African nation into a political crisis and also rattled the broader region. Well, 2 planes dispatched by France arrived at the airport in the country's capital, Niamey, on Tuesday. Several other European nations are simultaneously working to evacuate their own citizens, or they're collaborating in the French effort.
We compare 14 insurance quotes to get you the best deal. So choose chill and work smarter, not harder.
Thank you, Joe, and a very good morning. We're live here in Drumcondra in Dublin this Tuesday morning. Of course, the women's Camogie and All-Ireland finals kicking off this weekend and the following weekend. So we're going to be previewing both games a little bit later on this morning with some of the players and the selectors. So that's all to come later on this morning. Now, let's pull back the curtains on your Tuesday. We're on to the 2nd of August. Avril Valera with us on cameras, and it is a pretty wet start across the northern half of the island into eastern areas. Plenty of rain now crisscrossing through northern Leinster and across Ulster to the northwest as well. So get the rain gear on, stay nice and dry. Elsewhere, the further south, we're sinking to the Midlands, just about holding drier with a good deal of cloud cover now as those winds veer moderate to the north. Now, right across today, it's going to be definitely a struggle in terms of that sunshine. We had a pretty decent start to the first half of the day yesterday. Out there into this afternoon, we're looking at once again plenty of cloud cover, plenty of showers taking us right across the day, holding relatively mild and not too bad in terms of temps, highs in around 16 to 19 degrees. And finally then tonight, any showers dying out. Still some scattered rain here and there, but elsewhere it will improve as we work our way into your Wednesday morning with some bright breaks on the cards as we hit the midweek with overnight lows there back to around 11 to 15 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up from a damp and dreary Drumcondra here in Dublin at the moment. We'll be back again live at 7:35.
Chill Insurance work harder so you can work smarter. We compare 14 quotes to get you the best deal.
It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers, where one story dominates. That is, of course, the fatal crash that killed 2 teenage girls, Kia McCann and Dalava Mohammed, on their way to their Debs. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline: a night of celebration became a night of suffering and heartbreak. The 2 best friends both attended Largy College in Clonaz and were travelling to a Debs ball when their car collided with a tree. The Gardaí are investigating if wet weather conditions contributed to the incident.
I tried to revive them, but there was nothing I could do. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. Kia's father, Frankie McCann, got the call immediately from Kia's cousins in the car behind. He rushed to the scene to help, but ultimately all he could do was ask if the 2 girls could be put lying together.
The Examiner leads with "Cherished Forever, Missed." Tributes to teen crash victims. The community in Clonaz last night stood in the town streets and showed their support by providing a guard of honour.
Convoy of pupils saw Debs crash is the top story on the Daily Mail. The car was one of a large number of vehicles heading to Monaghan Town for the Debs. The family members of the 4 teenagers in the car rushed to the scene and witnessed the devastation.
The Mirror's front page, life is so cruel. In a social media post, Kia's sister Shanice said she couldn't find the words to describe the horror of her loss.
Son leads with, "This is our worst nightmare." Family of the teenage girls said, "We had champagne and balloons. It was going to be a great night."
The Star's front page, "Your life was only starting. It's so cruel." The driver of the car, in his 60s, is a friend that offered the teenagers a lift. He is also in critical condition in hospital.
And the Herald, it goes with something different. The monk gets back in Hutch. Jerry Hutch was cleared of the Regency Hotel murder and has returned to Ireland after spending the past 10 weeks living in Spain. But yeah, listen to all those stories. And I was actually in Monaghan yesterday, and there just was such a sense of grief and sadness around the town with just what has happened. So I think all our condolences on the show go out to the family of Delava and Kia, and of course to the people of Largy College and Clonus on this pretty tough morning.
Yeah. We'll be back with you very shortly on Ireland.
Yeah, lots more to come. Good morning, you're very welcome back. Now, recent data released by Met Éireann shows that Ireland just experienced I didn't think it would be possible, but it is the wettest July ever recorded.
And we've not talked about it every day since we heard that. It's very wet, it's very wet. Here to discuss the impact of climate change, because that's what it is from around the world, is Dr. Darren Clark, lecturer from DCU and climate activist and renewable engineer Fergal McEntee. Thank you both so much for joining us this morning. Darren, we're going to start with you, because why have we experienced the wettest July on record when we're looking around the world at record temperatures in Europe? There was a typhoon in Japan. Like, what's happening?
Following the hottest June, wasn't it?
Exactly. The hottest June on record in Ireland. We're expecting 2023 to be one of the hottest years on record, if not the hottest. The straightforward answer is climate change is one of the reasons, or the predominant reason why we've experienced July. We can't say for definite it's exactly climate change, but one of the things that we can say is that the jet stream, which brings a lot of our weather patterns to Ireland, is becoming wavier as a result of climate change. And anything north of the jet stream tends to get more intense rainfall. Anything south of the jet stream tends to have more stable weather. So we've seen a lot of stability in southern Europe at the minute with temperatures and with extreme heat events. But north of that, we've seen a lot of the flood events and the rainfall events that we've seen in Ireland at the minute. And it's that waviness, that the jet stream, as it's waving up and down high in the atmosphere, that has led to the instability and the record rainfall that we've had in the last month.
So here in Ireland, when we say the hottest June on record, the wettest July, we're getting these extremes. We're having massive forest fires. We're having the flooding down in Kerry and stuff we saw as well. So are the Irish government, they now have to invest in ways to try and protect ourselves for these extreme weather events?
Absolutely. So it really comes down to, there's two things when it comes to climate change. There's mitigating, so preventing further climate change from happening, which is essential. And then there's the adaptation, which is dealing with the consequences of what's already happening and what will happen in the future. And when it comes to adaptation, I suppose for Ireland, the two biggest risks for us are, the biggest risk for us is flooding, which we've seen in the last couple of weeks in particular. But we also, unsurprisingly, have a risk of drought in summer, which in the last couple of summers, we've had significant drought events. And probably when it comes to flooding, an area that my research focuses on in particular is the real risk around our coastal towns and cities, which are very low-lying. And we have billions of euros of assets in these coastal towns and cities. And I am quite concerned that we think that we can continuously engineer our way out of these solutions by building flood defences, by building flood walls. They'll get us to a point, but when climate change kicks in further in the future, we really need to start looking at other options. And those other options are the likes of relocation, moving people away. We can't continue to guarantee that we can protect coastal communities in the future under a warming climate and sea level rise. We just can't.
See, this is terrifying, right? Fergal, what Darren's saying is sort of terrifying. Relocating people from coastal towns, and we're just talking about Ireland, a fairly small country. We always think, because of this massive problem, that some big event is going to wake us up. But that doesn't appear to be happening. Because we've been talking about a lot the last few months about the Gulf Stream, as you mentioned, breaking down by 2025. I know that this is much more complicated, but this is a huge deal as to what it could mean for the entire world, right?
Yeah, we're talking about, you know, the AMOC, the breakdown of the Gulf Stream as part of the Gulf Stream could theoretically put Ireland back into like the ice age of changing temperatures 3 to 8 degrees cooler than right now. And what that means for us is that means we're going to lose our agriculture. It's just going to go completely destroy any form of society that we have. And the thing is, science, as Darren's pointing out, we know what's going to be happening. We know the effects of climate change, and we're talking about adaptation and mitigation and what we actually need to be doing about it. So Ireland right now is failing on all its climate targets, right? So all the climate targets that were set out in the climate change plan, we're failing on. And this is the wake-up call. And it's down to the citizens. It's also down to the government. We need to completely step up, and we need to actually start treating this as the emergency that it is, and invest in renewable energy, sustainability, bring in the societal changes that are needed, and for a just transition for all. And we need to start talking about this like a lot more.
Well, we do talk about it, Virgil. This is the problem. Like, we have discussed this so many times on this show, and we discuss how we're going to fix it. But then you have the government, we have big business. People, I don't know whether they're taking it serious or not, but like whenever you see, say Germany, for instance, they've closed down all their nuclear energy stations, which I thought was meant to be the cleanest way forward, and they're going back to coal. So like, are some places just not taking it serious, or what are the public meant to do when they're seeing that?
Yeah, so when we see the likes of Germany closing down its power stations, what we're doing is we're doing little bits here, little bits there, but collectively what we need to do is we need to have like an overall plan, and there is overall plans put in place by the intergovernmental plan on climate change. Like Ireland's got its climate change plan put in place, but we need to actually be implementing it. So we need to be investing. We need to be actually looking at how we're actually going to fund this just transition, as I mentioned.
But we need to, Fergal, but it's not happening. Like, and this, you must be like banging your head against a wall with frustration when you see that Ireland needs to make these changes, and everybody knows the story, but we're getting worse.
Well, the thing is, we know what the solutions are, right? Yeah. We need to rapidly decrease the amount of carbon we use. So every degree that the temperature increases, we get 7% more moisture into the atmosphere. So that's more storms, more rain. The only way we can stop that is stop burning fossil fuels. And we need to go to 100% renewable energy, low carbon. We need to stop flying. We need to change how we eat, how we drive. We need a complete societal change, and people need to wake up.
See, it's interesting because I suppose that societal change, right? This has all happened in a relatively short space of time since the Industrial Revolution. Like just over 150 years ago, everything started to change. We started to eat differently, Darren. So it's not like we've been doing this for centuries and centuries, but we like our lives. We had one of the biggest, we had a car in here the other day that was bigger than a truck. Like, I'm like, what? It can't fit down a road in Kerry. Do you know, like, governments need to put pressure on industry to be like, calm down, lads, not bigger is better, surely.
Yes, but governments also need to take the lead on this. I mean, ultimately, I would take it back to, if we look at COVID, government took the lead and everyone kind of followed suit. And we need the same type of implementation around what happened in COVID, that emergency scale disaster, impending doom, if you want to call it that. I don't want to put climate change in that bracket, but we need that government response, that seriousness of a government response when it comes to climate change, and we need that sustained. COVID was a 1 to 2 year thing that we obviously thankfully got out of, but we need this in the long term, and we need a level of ambition from the government, particularly because it's government that regulates industry, it's government that regulates what we buy and what we do in our daily lives, and unless we have government leading the way...
And why aren't they leading the way?
That's a bigger question than you and I. Yeah.
And that's what questions from everybody at home wondering, well, like, we're trying to do our bit, we're trying to recycle, we're trying to get electric cars, but why are the government, who are meant to be the people who you know, they're seeing the catastrophic weather events? So it does beg you to wonder, well, what are we missing out on here?
For me, certainly, pressure from the public is the best way to influence politicians. If there's enough pressure and enough conversations like this happening, the more of these conversations that are happening in the public space and between friends and family, the more that this filters into politics and the more the politicians feel we need to do something. And that's really where it needs to get to, where we're having these discussions. And unfortunately, it's not happening at the pace that it needs to. But the more we have of these conversations, it's much better to have these conversations than not have these conversations if we're trying to influence politicians.
And it's just today is Earth Overshoot Day, sort of a thing about overpopulation and how exponentially it's gotten bigger. Do you sometimes, like both of you, sometimes in your research, I'm sure it must happen, Darren, that you're just sitting there in your office, just kind of shaking your head going, like, does it become too much? Because I find it quite overwhelming a lot.
Yeah, and eco-anxiety is a huge issue. Yeah. And so it's a term, eco-anxiety, and not just for climate, but bigger environmental issues as well. And young people in particular, I mean, my generation, I would consider myself relatively young, but even people younger than me, they'll have to deal with the consequences of this for the rest of their life, and it's a real issue. Yeah, it is a real issue.
It's just a lot, and just don't know. You want someone to tell you what to do, like they did in COVID. Listen, Darren, I'm sure we'll be talking to you again. Darren Clark, environmental geographer and DCU lecturer, and Fergal McEntee, climate activist, with just the most beautiful shelves behind him with all those gorgeous plans, and renewable energy engineer. Thank you both so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. Thanks a million, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, it does get a bit scary, doesn't it? Now, still to come, let's try to put our anxiety down. Do you regularly snub your partner in favour of your phone? He does it all the time. If so, it's called phubbing. We chatted about it quickly last week, so we're wondering, do you have any phone etiquette rules in your house? 0896 111 111.
Leave it in the car. There you go. Plus, we're going to be taking a look at the top stories making this news this morning. See you after the break.
We compare 14 insurance quotes to get you the best deal. So choose chill and work smarter, not harder.
Yes, Joe, it's a damp Drumcondra here in Dublin at the moment. Weather-wise slipping past 7:30, bucketing down through parts of the northwest now at the moment, right through parts of Ulster as well. And we've a band of showers now in across North Tip, stretching right through County Laois there at the moment as well. So get the rain gear on if you're living in those neck of the woods. Elsewhere, those light to locally moderate northerly winds kick-starting your Wednesday morning. Yeah, we're gone that far now. Right across the day, in fact, there's going to see plenty of rain out there today. Easy back though to scattered showers with a good deal of cloud cover. Very, very limited bright breaks out there now this 2nd of August. Top temps to 16 to 19. And finally then tonight, rain to start, then once again light scattered showers and cloud cover then to take us through tonight and into tomorrow. An improving picture into your Thursday with temps no lower than 10 to 13 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up for now. We'll be back again live at 8.
Chill Insurance work harder, so you can work smarter. We compare 14 quotes to get you the best deal.
Welcome back. Joining us now for a look at this morning's top stories, we're joined by Jack Horgan-Jones from the Irish Times.
Good morning, Jack. Your paper, like most other papers this morning, is leading with the story of the two teenagers, Kia McCann and Lava Mohammed, who obviously died in that crash in Clonus, Monaghan. I was saying earlier on, I was in Monaghan town yesterday, and there's just a real feeling of grief and sadness among everyone there. And just when you read some of the headlines, how the bus drove past, they were going to the Debs, they saw the crash, the family were there. It's really heartbreaking story.
Yeah, and look, we in the media industry, we often try to establish the why of something happened, but really the fact of the matter is when it comes to this story, there is no why. So we try and find these human stories that help us understand maybe a little bit about what people are going through. And you're right, Tommy, that it is that kind of the very real and vivid nature of the tragedy, the father turning up to the scene and being unable to revive his own daughter. The idea that they could have gotten a coach, but they wanted to travel in style and travelled in this white BMW that ended up crashing. And the very real stories of the grieving community up there in Clonus in County Monaghan. There was reports this morning of a 1 kilometre guard of honour as locals lined out and local people sobbing as the hearse went by. And there is no real meaning in this tragedy, but I suppose that, you know, the effort here is to try and understand a little bit of what people are going through and offer what support can be done.
And just when you read there, Kia's dad just said that they wanted to travel in style, and his friend had this white BMW, of course, he was driving at the time, and remains in critical condition.
And 2 boys as well.
So listen, it's a horrendous story at the minute, and our thoughts, everybody's thoughts here go out to everybody involved in that, people in Monaghan, Clones, Largy College and the family.
Of course.
We'll move on to another story, of course, we just saw it on the news there as well. So Trump is back in the news again, back in more trouble, and it doesn't seem to be too bothered about it, probably, does he?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if there is a story for him to be concerned about, out of all the vast array of criminal charges that he's now facing, I would say that this is the one.
Really?
Because, I would think so. Because,
so he's been charged already in New York, and so that's it. What has happened? What is this new charge? Who's doing it?
This is the front runner for the Republican nomination for the presidential race next time out, being charged with effectively, fraudulently and wrongly trying to hold on to power after he lost the last election.
Okay.
This is charges that are arising from the Special Counsel investigation into the January 6th riots, and they find a real it's a role of dishonour. Really, he's accused of 4 counts, including conspiracy to defraud the US, tampering with a witness, conspiracy against the rights of citizens, and it focuses on that 2-month period between when he lost the election, November of 2020, and the riots on January 6th, and all that he did to contribute to this atmosphere of misinformation and disinformation, and the way in which he spread wrong-headed and fraudulent theories about
him
how he
basically
was,
saying that the counts weren't accurate.
that the counts weren't accurate, trying to undermine legitimate electoral processes in different states that he lost, trying to assemble panels of fake electors, furthering inaccurate conspiracy theories that, Mike Pence could come in and in some ways pause the ratification of the election results. Which is
trying
one
to
of the
force
main,
people in Georgia as people were still voting.
It was one of the main
and
kind
counting.
of bases of conspiracy theory that led to the January 6th riots. So, I mean, look, is it something for him to be concerned about? I would suggest that it's bigger than that, which we've seen already, which relates to kind of campaign finance and Stormy Daniels and the retention of classified documents. This is more serious, but is it something that is going to...
Retention of classified documents and showing them off. I mean, it's insane.
It's remarkable, but this gets to the heart of the subversion of democracy. But is it going to hurt him in the polls?
He's still leading easily against DeSantis as a Republican candidate. The chances are he's going to be going up against Joe Biden again.
Yeah.
And it looks like there potentially could be only one winner there. And even the fact that he's using his election money that's meant to be for canvassing, he's going to be using that as part of to cover his legal costs for this, to keep him out of prison.
Is there no election fraud case here, or is it?
Who knows?
Look, who knows what may come down the
money?
track for him. The thing when it comes to him and the electorate in the US is that stuff like this, as we know, rallies the base, makes him more likely to be the candidate. But in a general, it's that sliver of floating voters, the kind of maybe Trumpers or the maybe Biden people who may be turned off by this. That's where the other shoe may fall eventually. That's why I say something like subverting democracy, that kind of thing travels a little bit more with that electorate.
But he has said that if he did win, he would happily rule from behind bars if he was convicted.
And can do so.
Because he can do so. Yeah. Okay, so that country gets... Wow, like no bipartisanship, no...
Come on, let's move on.
Let's
move on to another study by Barnardo's.
Yes, so this study on back-to-school costs finds, unsurprisingly, that a quarter of secondary school parents had to take out a loan or borrow from friends in order to meet back-to-school costs this year. Now, we know that
Seems an awful lot. A quarter
it is an awful lot.
Of parents, really?
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, like, it's an awful lot of money, particularly when you zoom in on the secondary school costs. And I think that's one of the interesting lines in this report, that when you look at primary school costs, they're high, so they're about €320, I think it is, for fourth class pupil, but that's down. That's down from 424 last year. And the difference being something that we've talked about on this slot before, the introduction of a free school book scheme for primary school. So you have this now divergence in cost for primary school and secondary school, where secondary school is actually climbing quite rapidly. It's €972 for a first-year student this year. That's up from 814 just last year. So that's 150 odd quid of an increase. Similarly for fifth year, 863 versus 722. Meanwhile, in primary school, it's dropping because you have that big wedge taken out. So
well, the free book scheme, which we talked about just a couple of months ago, that people didn't know about.
Exactly.
So it's like, please know that there is a free book scheme that you can apply for and you can sort yourself out. So it is sort of, as children get older, we're seeing inflation hugely impact what's happening to children here. The calls are, again, about where it comes from, technology, iPads, and also to provide low-cost options for uniforms.
School uniforms are really expensive. €232, 200 is the average cost here, but 240, €250. It all adds up. And if you can have a generic alternative, then obviously, again, you're removing one of those big chunks of cost. So I think that's why you'll see things like in the budget last year, the free primary school books, that was a surprise. I think there will be a big drumbeat this year in the lead up to October for that to be extended to secondary school as well.
It is quite frightening. A quarter of secondary school parents are having to take a loan or borrow from friends just to send their children to school. Quite frightening. 0896 111 111. Jack Horgan-Jones from the Irish Times, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, Alan, what have we got next?
Well, Tommy, coming up, can an obsession with your phone take a toll on your relationship? Well, we're going to be discussing that after the break.
Welcome back. Now, do you spend more time on your phone than with your partner? Do you?
No. Well, he might.
That's fine. Well, if you do, you might be a fubber. Yeah,
We're joined now by Paula Cocozza to discuss her new book, Speak to Me, which deals with the phubbing phenomenon. Good morning to you. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us, Paula. Can you tell us what is phubbing? It's been around, the phrase has been around a while, but why are we hearing of it so much more now?
Yeah, so phubbing, it's made up of phone and snubbing. It's when you snub the people you're with physically to be with your phone, to check your phone or do something on your phone. And the word was coined in 2012. It was part of a marketing campaign for an Australian English dictionary. And I don't think anyone took any notice of it. Maybe I guess around half of us had smartphones then, half of adults. And I think it probably felt like a silly made-up word for something that really didn't matter. But now maybe we're engaging with it more because there's a lot of research being published in scientific journals about the impact of phubbing on relationships. And I think maybe we're ready to engage now.
Yeah. I can't believe it. Like 10 years ago, you're right. I was fighting moving from a Nokia to a BlackBerry, for God's sake. So you're right. It is a relatively new thing. You talk about it. It's kind of the inspiration behind your latest novel, which is called Speak to Me, right?
Yeah. So I noticed that wherever I went, I was seeing people on their phones. This was perhaps 6-7 years ago. I might have been out for drinks or in a restaurant, at the playgrounds with my kids. In the cinema even, train carriages, buses, in my own home, and people would be taking out their phone. And I just started to think, what's it like for those of us who grew up and started our kind of significant relationships before there were smartphones and then are adjusting to life with. So the book centres around a woman who loathes her partner's smartphone because he's on it all the time. He can't keep his hands off it. And it becomes like a third party in their marriage. It's not like he's using it to have an affair. The phone itself is the third party.
And the etiquette of phone use, in the book, I know you talk about, like there's a scene, you open the scene in a bedroom where they're doing things together, and the phone, he turns to the phone. I mean, that's obviously a no-no.
Yeah, I think it's a no-no. But while I was doing my research, there are loads of forums, chat forums, parenting forums, where people discuss this very thing. We were together last night in the bedroom and my partner's phone went off and he went to answer the call. Is this okay? No, it's not okay.
Hold on a second there, love. Hello? Oh, God.
It happens. I think it must be the ultimate phubbing crime, don't you?
I'm sorry now. If you have to go to an online forum and ask if that's okay, no, babe. Like, you don't, that's not a good thing. Wait, you did, there was a recent article you had in The Guardian, who you write for, and about the rules of etiquette. And it's absolutely crazy how much it has taken over our lives. So people are ignoring their pets, their children, and their sex lives for their phones. So it's a real addiction.
Well, I mean, it's difficult. I don't know whether it's an addiction or not, whether it would qualify as one in the kind of medical definitions of addiction. It's definitely a behavior that's driven by a very sophisticated reward system, isn't it? So, you know, we give our attention to our phones because they reward our attention, and probably in a much more straightforward way than other humans reward our attention.
I'm just wondering as well, because in this article you were talking about it, and on public transport recently, what I've noticed, especially on buses, is people who don't have headphones in and they're like playing everything like out loud, they're chatting out loud, everything's loud, they're watching TV out loud. What's the etiquette there? Can I go, lads, pop in your earphones?
Well, I think all the etiquette experts I interviewed felt that was a no-no. Because it also is probably a no-no for the other person who's doing the talking and doesn't know that a whole carriage full or a whole busload of people can hear what they're saying. So I think you can, you know, if you're brave enough, you can say something. I just think that few of us are brave enough, and that whereas that would have been such an obvious taboo a while ago, now it is actually pretty common. And I think it's so common, it's pretty hard to call out now.
It's interesting because I have had this conversation with my partner where he tells me to put down my phone all of the time.
Well, you're always on your phone.
I am always on my phone. Can you finish up the rest of the show? Is that okay?
Listen, Paula, thank you so much for joining us. The book is called Speak to Me. It's as simple as that. Put down your phone and speak to me. Paula Cocozza, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now, very interesting. There it is there. Let us know your thoughts on this. Are you a phubber? Do you ignore your partner for your phone?
He had to have a chat with me.
Tommy definitely does.
How dare you, Alan? Phil, phub off. Still to come, we meet the organiser behind the Menopause Summit. Edward Hayden takes on the latest foodie TikTok trend, and we're going to find out how to sit on the loo when taking a poo, as toilet posture can affect your health. Did you know? See you back here in a few.
Welcome back to Wednesday's Ireland AM. Now, it's considered a challenging transition in a woman's life. At 8:15, we'll be meeting the organiser behind the upcoming Menopause Summit. And this fella, you know, he talks an awful lot of poo sometimes, but I never expected him to do anything like this. Tommy, hello?
Yes, hello. Are you sitting comfortably? Later this hour, we're going to find out how toilet posture affects your mental health. Who knew that sitting on the loo, how to do a poo? We're going to find out how to do it properly. All riveting stuff here in Ireland. Plus, I meant to cover this well, the death-defying moment which sees Tom Cruise drive a motorbike off a cliff in the new Mission Impossible. After 9, we're going to be meeting our stuntman who helped make the audacious stunt a reality. There you go. Alan, what's coming up in the kitchen? Because,
well, we might want to be talking about food after you sitting on that.
We're still standing, Alan.
We're still standing, yeah. Now, listen to this. A girl dinner. It's the cheap and easy way to eat that's blowing up on TikTok. Have a look at some of these images on TikTok. Like over 500 million views on this, and it's just people put bits of dinner together. There, look, 2 eggs and some strawberries. Yeah. And this is blowing up all over TikTok. So we asked Edward Hayden to come in and do his girl dinner.
There you have it.
Your girl dinner.
Your very own Greg Namana TikTok sensation. Yeah, listen, I think Nigella Dawson was the one who kind of framed it best in terms of, she said it was picky bits.
Picky bits.
Picky bits.
Oh, picky bits.
Picky bits, yeah. No, not piggy. Picky bits. So, I mean, essentially that's what it is. I mean, it's kind of like snacks for your dinner, or kind of what we'd call a handy dinner.
But we said this yesterday. We knew you'd be coming in with Waterford Crystal and moss pottery and everything.
Well,
you do it with style.
Absolutely. We can't drop our standards just because it's picky bits. But I mean, this essentially is kind of what I would love to do, what I do on a Friday night if I have guests around.
All right.
This is my favourite thing to do. It's middle of the table job. And it's the sharing of food.
OK, looking forward to that coming up to see what his girl dinner is going to be like. Now, Derek is in Croke Park this morning. What have you got planned for us, Derek?
Well, Al, I'll tell you, getting into Croke Park at this hour of the morning is a challenge in itself. I kind of feel like Indiana Jones. Anyway, of course, the Camogie and the football, the women's finals kicking off this weekend and next weekend. So we're going to be previewing both games, of course, Cork and Waterford, in the Camogie, and then we have Dublin taking on Cork in the football, so we're going to be previewing both games a little bit later on this morning. Tommy O'Byrne, is this how you sit in the loo and do a poo? Is this how you do it properly?
That is, I'll have to get Tommy. Tommy's the expert. He's going to have to judge your squatting position a little bit later on. We do have lots coming up on the show today. We would love to hear from you if there's anything you'd like to chat to us about. It's 0896 111 111 as always.
We compare 14 insurance quotes to get you the best deal. So choose chill and work smarter, not harder.
Yes, Joe, the rain coming down here in Croke Park. It's a damp Drumcondra here in Dublin at the moment, of course. The women's Camogie final this weekend as Cork take on Waterford. And then we've got that double header once again. Kerry taking on Dublin in the women's football final. So we're going to be previewing both games in and around 9:35 this morning. So do with us for that. Now, slipping past 8 o'clock here this morning. It's a wet start, especially across the northern half of the island. Plenty of showers now coming down. Stay nice and dry if you're heading out and about in that northerly airflow, with a good deal of cloud cover the further south, midwest and west we sink. Now, right across the day, in fact, we're going to see plenty of rain to start, then easing back to scattered showers as we edge away right across your Wednesday. Top values in and around 16 to 19 degrees, with cloud cover prevailing then as the day goes on. And into tonight, in fact, those cloudy conditions hanging on with us for most areas. Still plenty of scattered showers to take us through tonight into tomorrow morning, with some brighter spells on the menu as we work our way into your Thursday, with overnight lows no lower than 10 to 13 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here in Croke Park at the moment. We'll be back again live 8:35.
Chill Insurance work harder so you can work smarter. We compare 14 quotes to get you the best deal.
It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers, where one story dominates. That is the fatal crash that killed two teenage girls, Kia McCann and Lava Mohammed, on their way to the Debs. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline: a night of celebration became a night of suffering and heartbreak. The two best friends both attended Largy College in Clones and were travelling to a Debs ball when their car collided with a tree. The Gardaí are investigating if weather conditions contributed to the incident.
I tried to revive them, but there was nothing I could do. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. Kia's father, Frankie McCann, got the call immediately from Kia's cousins in the car behind. He rushed to the scene to help, but unfortunately, all he could do was ask if the two girls could be put lying together.
The Examiner leads with "Cherished, Forever Missed," tributes to teen crash victims. The community in Clones last night stood in the town streets and showed their support by providing a guard of honour, and we're told that the guard of honour was at least a kilometre long.
Convoy of people saw Debs crash is the top story on the Daily Mail. The car was one of a large number of vehicles heading to Monaghan town for the Debs. The family members of the four teenagers in the car rushed to the scene and witnessed the devastation.
The Mayor goes with "Life is so cruel." In a social media post, Kia's sister Shanice said she couldn't find the words to describe the horror of her loss.
Sun also leads with "This is our worst nightmare." Family of the teenage girl says we had champagne and balloons. It was going to be a great night.
The Star's front page: "Your life was only starting. It's so cruel." The driver of the car, a man in his 60s, he is a friend that offered the teens a lift. He is also in critical condition in hospital, along with two other teenage boys, and our thoughts are with them as well.
And finally, the Herald goes with a different story. The monk gets back in Hutch. Jerry Hutch was cleared of the Regency Hotel murder and has returned to Ireland after spending the past 10 weeks living in Spain. Now, yeah, it's, just horrendous stories this morning. And, you know, as Muireann just said, our thoughts go out to everybody in Clonus, Monaghan and from Largy College as well.
We were speaking about other things this morning as well, and climate change is one of those things, because obviously there was no accord found at the G20, and Ireland had its wettest July and its warmest June ever on records, and we've got some messages in about it.
Lots of messages coming in. Richie was saying earlier, it was mentioned that we need to stop flying, and we know that flying causes an awful lot of it. But let's be real, who's willing to take planes out of the sky? I'd say if there was a poll, we revealed that 100% of people would probably say...
Alan's going to start campaigning for it now.
Out of all the texts, that's the one you picked.
No, but I wouldn't say 100% of people. But, like, we live on an island. If we're going to move, when you've had the wettest July, I know some people who just...
There are so many texts here, and he went for the one that he's like, I'm not giving up my plane.
I'm just saying, like...
Yeah, you're right, Al.
I know people who were doing holidaying in Ireland and in July and are saying they need to get away just to see a bit of sun or a bit of sun on their back.
And like when you have the G20 and they still can't when you're seeing what is going on around the world and they still can't agree that they need to make changes. Kay just said Ireland trying to stop using fossil fuels is nothing but a drop in the ocean, with other larger countries doing nothing to reduce their emissions.
I know, it's a lot that's going on. We were also talking a little bit earlier on about school costs. This is a survey by Bernardo's that find that a quarter of parents are struggling with back-to-school costs. And this is from Jennifer. It says, my children's school has introduced a school-crested tracksuit that my child will wear one day a week. This is at a cost of €75. Why can't they just wear that for the whole week? But they've also introduced a different colour jumper for 5th and 6th years, so jumpers can't be passed down.
It's absolutely... As that school has no idea. Are they just literally living...
Are they demanding that you have to wear the crested tracksuit?
I wonder.
Because my daughter's school, there are crested tracksuits available, but if you can find a similar jumper, a similar colour, they're allowed to wear it.
I just...
Do you know what I mean? Yes, so the school might introduce it, but I would imagine it's up to people's discretion.
Why even introduce it, Tommy? Like, why introduce it? Is this a private school? Is this, like, because...
No.
Like, you just sort of think that, like, why would you put the pressure on people? Because there are other schools, they'll go back to their parents and go, my friend has the crested one, why can't I have the crested one?
Absolutely.
But shouldn't they be allowed to wear it? Because if I had the choice when I was in school, I would have worn a tracksuit every single day, because you're more comfortable,
wear it
warmer,
during the week.
Whatever you want to do. You should be allowed, if you're spending this, you should be allowed to decide school uniform or tracksuit.
Well,
you
here we
one
go.
Or the other.
Mags as well just said, my son's going into 5th year and his books alone are working out at about €325. Both me and my husband work full-time, yet I have to buy 2 books a week, as the expense of sending him back to school is just too much.
So she's put a plan in place in order to be able to kind of a purchasing scheme. Listen,
every year we hear this.
But with all the money that we have, you know, all the extra billions, they could put in the secondary school back to school,
well,
the free back to school
in the
secondary
paper
school.
as well.
That'd
Asking the paper, the books, free.
We love to hear from you. 089 6 111 111. And coming up, he wants to hear all about this, and you do as well. We're talking about menopause. Send all your messages into the lads. They're dying to read them. We'll talk to you in a minute. Welcome back. Now, the menopause. It is a natural part of a woman's life, Tommy. Okay?
So I hear.
Going to have a bit of a chat. And finally, in recent years, people have actually started talking about it.
So we're going to do just that. Joining us now to discuss is GP and menopause specialist Dr. Kiva Hartley and founder and co-director of the National Menopause Summit, Sinead McNamara. You're both very welcome. Great to have you with us. For people like me, can you explain, explain the menopause and really the symptoms that women get when they come across menopause? You come across it when it happens.
Go through menopause.
Go through, okay.
So the word menopause is just the medical term that we give to our final menstrual period. That's all it means. But I think when we talk about menopause, what we're really talking about is the time where your hormonal production from your ovaries starts to change. So instead of making an egg once a month and ovulating, as we get older, we see that reduce and then stop at the time of menopause. But similarly, our production of a particularly important hormone called estrogen, so I'll introduce you to estrogen. So it falls, and eventually we stop producing that hormone from our ovaries too. And then there is knock-on effect of that. So as you've said, women tend to get symptoms, but not all women do. So maybe 15% of women, their periods stop. They don't get symptoms. They're the lucky ones, obviously. But for other women, it's a spectrum. And we'll see some women have symptoms that are not very severe and they can manage, and then everything up to, you know, the other end of the spectrum. And there are women who their symptoms are so severe, you know, there's impact on their relationship, on their ability to work, on their ability to just enjoy their life at all. And these symptoms, they typically start when your hormonal production starts to change. And that might be before your periods have even stopped. So we call that perimenopause. Usually around the age of 45, but again, there's a bit of individuality. And your periods often stop at 50, 51. And then when we're talking about symptoms, it's head to toe, because you have estrogen receptors everywhere. So I'm aiming this, I feel. I feel I should have the board out. And
how long can it last for then?
So again, that depends on the person. Now, on average, hot flushes, which would be the symptom that most people tend to associate with menopause, they would be about 5 to 7 years on average. But some women, it can be for the rest of their life. It just depends. But we see a myriad of other things like mood and emotional symptoms, depression and anxiety. Some women, they get, you know, dry skin, joint aches and pains. There's the vulvovaginal symptoms, which we've talked about before, like dryness and painful sex, and bladder symptoms. I could go on.
You really could go on, because there are so many things. For years, the one thing that seemed to be mentioned was hot flashes, and that was what was socially acceptable. In the last few years, Sinead, everything has changed, because I learned more about the menopause from people having chats and Davina McCall on the telly than I have ever. And everyone's chatting about it, which is lovely.
No, it's fantastic.
Like, it really has become great. So for you, what was it? Because, you know, when you set up something like a national menopause summit, it seems like women are going to go and throw their sanitary pads into a bit and be like, I'm done with them. We're having a big summit about it. What happened to you that you were like, what's going on with me?
Sure, absolutely. So I hit menopause around 2020, so it was beautifully in tandem with COVID, which of course was fantastic, as you can imagine. And the symptom that really, I suppose, floored me, and that would be how I would describe it, was brain fog. So brain fog sounds all fluffy and not too scary. And again, brain fog can be on a spectrum for people. But for me, brain fog actually felt like brain paralysis. So what happened was I began to really struggle, particularly with my job. So the most basic tasks that I would do as part of my job became unmanageable. And then, of course, the more challenging parts of your work became totally and utterly overwhelming. So, quite frankly, what happened to me was I didn't make a correlation between what I was experiencing in menopause, because it felt so dramatic. And as time went on, I truly began to believe that I was developing early onset dementia. I thought I was cognitively impaired. I thought, this is it. You know, my old self is ebbing away. You know, what am I going to do now? And of course, what happens is that has a knock-on effect, obviously, on your self-confidence and your self-esteem, but more worryingly, a serious effect on your mental health. So it was really, you know, it was quite crippling at the time. So that was the symptom that really affected me. And again, as Kiva says, brain fog doesn't necessarily affect everybody to that degree. I had sailed through the old hot flushes and sailed through all that stuff, kind of going, cool, I'm doing okay here. And then, as I say, in 2020, things started to get a little bit out of control. So that was really my inspiration for setting up the National Menopause Summit. All women only hit menopause. You know, we're all new to it when we hit it, so it's a very individual experience. So I wanted to create a platform where people could be educated and empowered, and knowledge is power, as we know in these situations, and having a clear idea and clear information in terms of what they could expect and how they can manage that. So that was the inspiration behind the event.
So in time gone by, it was obviously quite an isolating time for people to go through this and not really realise, I mean, what is going on with my body here? Are GPs completely up to speed? Like, do you encourage people to go directly to your GP if you're seeing any sort of symptoms like that? And what sort of treatments are available?
Yeah, I think the GP is a really good place to start. And actually, we've seen a huge sort of surge of interest from general practice. There's an appetite, I think, with GPs now to know more about this and to learn more and to upskill, which is really good and has, you know, we've obviously really supported that, and that's brilliant. So yeah, your GP is definitely the first place to go. And usually then we break it down into, you know, there's different ways of approaching this. I think taking a really thorough history, finding out what, like Sinead was saying, for her, it was cognition was the issue, finding what aspect of this is affecting your life the most, because that will depend on the person, and focusing on that. And we look at long-term health as the other thing too. When you lose estrogen, we see changes in things like bone density.
Yeah.
So that can lead to osteoporosis for some women. And we see changes in our cardiovascular health with the loss of estrogen. Women have this lovely protective effect from estrogen on their blood vessels and their heart. And we lose that in menopause. So it's really important and really opportunistic, actually, at a menopause consultation to go through that.
And it's the sort of thing, I suppose, when we saw that HRT was, remember when you couldn't get it in Ireland there a little while ago, and my God, like just chatting to women, they were like, no, my life is completely and utterly changed.
Yeah.
Like it's life-changing.
Yeah, but it's long-term health changing too. And there's, like any medication, there are pros and there are cons and there's benefits and there's risks, and all of that will come down to a sort of individual assessment too. We do look at lifestyle and diet and exercise and sleep and, things like vitamin D and weight-bearing exercise to look at bone health. There's non-hormonal medications, and some women, they can't take HRT because of their medical background, or they choose not to, which is fine as well. Mm-hmm. And we have a range of medications that we can use that are good for things like hot flushes and night sweats. And then there's hormone therapy, which is, it's the most effective treatment that we have for these symptoms. And we have to counsel women effectively, give them the information and support them in making the correct decision for them.
It's amazing that the conversation, and we've discussed this quite a lot on the show here as well. One person, as you mentioned, who has been a huge advocate for it is Davina McCall.
Yes, indeed.
You had her speaking at the National Menopause Summit last year, which was amazing, along with Gráinne Seoga.
Yes.
It's coming up again on the October the 20th. I'm sure demand is huge for it again. What's the plans this time?
The demand is massive, and we launched the inaugural National Menopause Summit on the 23rd of March this year in the Round Room in the Mansion House. And quite frankly, if I had known in advance, the appetite for the information, we could have run the event for 2 days in a row. We had 520 people in the Mansion House. We sold out 1 month in advance. There was a huge outpouring for tickets when we announced that we'd sold out. So what we decided to do was run the event again in Cork. So it's the National Menopause Summit Cork, and our wonderful partners, I have to mention them, Marks and Spencer, who supported us all along the way. So again, as per Dublin, the Cork event will be emceed by Gráinne Seoga. This time we're working with Mariella Frostrup, who is a menopause awareness champion in the UK, and Mariella will be our international keynote speaker. And we'll have fact-based information delivered by clinicians, healthcare practitioners, legal and HR experts, facilitators, advocates, business leaders, because the content is split into 2 halves. So the morning is about menopause and the workplace and advocating for a new norm across the Irish workplace, where people are offered menopause supports as part of HR policies. And then in the afternoon, the journey through menopause, so more of the clinical end of things. So can I just mention...
men don't go.
Oh, they do go. Yes,
men went, did they?
Yes, we had quite a number of men in Dublin. And the point is, as we all know, and we've all come to realise, is that menopause affects everybody. It directly affects women, but it also affects relationships, families, workplaces. So we're encouraging men to come to the event, and also encouraging women who haven't yet reached menopause themselves to come and get all sort of informed and learn what's ahead. And it's not, myself and Kiva were saying outside, it's not all doom and gloom, guys. It's not all bad news. But what's really, really important is to... No, it really isn't. No, it's not. is to just get as much factual information as you can, because there's a lot of misinformation floating around there. So we wanted the National Menopause Summit to be the antidote to that.
And what's the male menopause?
Oh, that's a whole other conversation.
It's menopause.
It's the menopause.
And Alan's telling us he's gone through it lots of times.
Alan was like, I'm done, darling. I've done it all. It's a National Menopause Summit that's happening in Cork on the Cork City Hall on October 20th with Mariella Frostrup, the most gorgeous voice in all the land. Dr. Kiva Hartley, GP and menopause specialist, as always, and Sinead McNamara, founder and co-director of the National Menopause Summit. Thank you both so much for joining us today. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
We compare 14 insurance quotes to get you the best deal. So choose chill and work smarter, not harder.
Yes, Joe, we've made it as far as Croke Park Museum here. We're going to be previewing, of course, the women's camogie and football finals in the run-up to the big game. Of course, the camogie this weekend and then the football the following weekend. So that's all to come in and around 9:35 this morning. Now, quick look at weather. It's a very wet start across the island out there this morning, especially across northern parts and across the northwest into eastern regions as well. Cloud cover dominating elsewhere with limited bright breaks. Now, right across this afternoon, that northerly airflow in the driving seat, knocking down temps to about 16 to 19 degrees. Plenty of rain out there today. Easy mark to that mixture cloud cover and scattered showers as the day goes on. And across into tonight then, more rain to start, then cloud cover, and once again scattered showers takes through tonight into tomorrow with an improving picture on the cards for Thursday, and overnight lows there at 10 to 13 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up for now. Come back to us live at 9.
Chill Insurance work harder so you can work smarter. We compare 14 quotes to get you the best deal.
Perfect coffee every time. Tassimo sponsors cookery on Ireland AM.
You enjoyed that, Tommy? Now, a TikTok trend called Girl Dinner has made its way into the kitchen this morning.
There you go. So before we chat to Edward Hayden all about it, let's take a look at some girl dinner videos.
This is my meal. I call this girl dinner. Girl dinner. Girl dinner. Girl dinner. Oh, girl dinner.
What a load of rubbish. Anyway.
It is a load of rubbish.
Edward Hayden, good morning.
I was going to say, there's a few of them looking fairly rough there.
Yeah, but you're upping the class of it all this morning.
Well, come here till I tell you, I'm not sure. I mean, I contest whether these TikTokers have invented it. To me, it's kind of like,
a plate of
snacks.
Yeah, that you've been doing for years.
Absolutely.
Like having a little supper around your place.
Yeah, absolutely. A soiree.
Soiree.
We have a soiree every weekend.
You should be on TikTok, you see, because you'd have 500 million views on yours.
I think I'm a bit hardy for TikTok at this stage.
OK, so what would you do for your
what I love
girls?
to do if I'm having people around, my favourite thing to do, I love entertaining, but if I'm entertaining, I want to give people a bit of time as well as a bit of food. So my favourite ever thing to do is have the place looking really nice, have it all decked out the best, have lovely drinks that people might like, whatever they'd like, and then this, which is like an antipasta platter. So I love to kind of do it as elaborate as I can. Sometimes I get like a couple of long boards that I have at home, and I'll put them down the middle of the island and kind of make a little bit of theatrics around it. But it'll be there.
Oh,
so you've got the drink for us.
See us Friday night, absolutely.
Where's the drinks?
I have a little droppy in a red wine here for you.
There you go.
Now, so I'm going to start, and I suppose what I'm trying to do is, you know, we were chatting this morning, some of it is just putting stuff on the plate. So I'm trying to elevate it with a few homemade options as well.
Lovely.
So I've got some red onions, which I'm going to make red onion marmalade out of this.
Ooh.
So I've got a couple of red onions here, sliced nice and thinly. You can see just to kind of, I've told you this before, but less people didn't see it, a bit of tissue, damp tissue on the top of the onions when sliced will contain the smell. So I sliced those late last night and I just left them in the fridge with the tissue on them. Yeah, so it's perfect. Now,
and it doesn't make the fridge stink.
It doesn't make the fridge stink, exactly. So cover it down with a bit of cling film or a little bit of beeswax or something, and it'll be absolutely fine. Now, so what I've got is I've got my oil in there, and I'm going to kind of just saute the onions. I don't need to sweat them down too much. I want to get a bit of heat into the onions and a bit of heat into the pan just before I add the liquids. I was going to say,
because you had that at quite a high heat.
I had it at a good heat just for the purposes of television, just to kind of get it up and going. So I'm going to leave that for a second. I'm going to pop over here and I'm going to make a gorgeous basil pesto. Now, basil pesto, if you go to your supermarket or deli, is expensive to buy because it's really nice and there's really good ingredients, but you'll make it very, very simply. So what I've got here is I've just bought, you know, a little plant of basil. So I've just denuded it, put all the kind of the leaves in there.
But surely by the time you buy the plant and everything, it's going to be as expensive as the jar.
No, well, you see, you buy the ones that grow again, so you just pick off the leaves. We have one, would you believe it, I have one at home, this is as true as God, and I have one at home. I'm minding it, I think, since about the end of May. Basil. I have it on the kitchen windowsill and I just pick off a few leaves.
Into a stew or
absolutely.
Mine keeps dying. Anyway, keep going.
Now, a couple of cloves of garlic there. So I'm going to put about 2 cloves of garlic in there. I'm going to put some Parmesan cheese in there as well. Now, what I've said to people is there's not really a recipe for pesto, but because people like a recipe, I've given them what I'd call my recipe. But it's really your own tastes and preferences. Okay. So into that, then I'm going to put a few pine nuts as well, and I'm going to put a little bit of lemon juice. Now, the lemon juice is great because the lemon juice acts as a preservative. So firstly, it will draw out that green chlorophyll plant pigment in the basil, but it will retain it, so it'll keep a lovely resplendent green colour.
Loads of really nice
and then
olive
I've
oil.
got really nice olive oil in there, so I'm going to pop that in there so Oliver rapeseed oil can go in. And I've just popped it into a little blender.
Why not both lemon, like the whole lemon?
Just half is sufficient for the amount I'm making. As I said, it's a flavouring, it's a preservative in there as well. And just give that a really nice good blend, okay, and you'll get that really nice resplendent green colour. Now, I'm doing it with basil, pardon me, shouting. I'm doing it with basil, but you could do it with sun-dried tomatoes if you so desired as well.
Yeah,
so I'm going to come back to that in just a second. That's absolutely gorgeous. Listen, it's a handy, dinky little one, you know, so you don't have to take out the big,
just to pour it out
thing.
for you.
Pardon? Would you mind, Tommy? Yeah, or whoever, yeah. Pop it in there. Now, so then what I'm going to do is, don't slurp it on the bowl now, of course. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to add some brown sugar to my red onions. Now, Tommy, what I'd say to you with this, they don't have to be too soft. There just needs to be a heat in there. Okay. So I've got red wine, then 3 tablespoons of red wine and 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. And I'm just going to keep that cooking down.
And you have one from earlier.
I have one from earlier that I've made as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start assembling this. And the assembly of it is all about the kind of the presentation.
The theatrics that you're very good at.
We're running out of time here now, Edward.
No,
for
listen,
me, my stomach is starting to rumble.
Yeah, fear not, Tommy, fear not. Now, so what I've got here is I've got some lovely goat's cheese. I've got a nice little spicy cheddar as well, which I'm going to pop on. I've got some of the lovely Wensleydale cheese.
And then just put them like that around.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do then is I've just started, because I knew you'd say to me, you're running out of time. I've just started folding some of the lovely salamis. So I've got some Parma ham here. Just going to literally scatter it around. I've got some Parma ham. I've got some of the folded salamis. Oh. So again, just pop it all on like that.
And the vegetables then?
Yes, of course. Give me a second.
Give me a second, will you?
What I've got here is I've just got some lovely roasted vegetables here, and I'm just going to scatter those around as well, just to add to the colour of that, just like so. And again, then, what we've got is a few olives here as well. So pop all of those on, just like so.
Look
and
at
that's
that,
your lovely
girls' dinner, eat your heart out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, then what I've got is I've got the basil pesto here as well. And you can see I've just made some lovely cruets as well. So I've made some lovely bread cruets or crackers.
The marmalade that you were making, so the onions just go down for how long?
So basically what you're going to do is you're going to render those down, OK? You're going to start to saute them down, add the sugar, add the red wine vinegar, and then you're going to give it about 10 or 12 minutes until the liquids have reduced. And what you get is this lovely...
Eat your heart.
Tick-tock with that clock.
Edward Hayden, fantastic.
That's look at that presentation.
Stunning.
That is amazing.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Edward.
so much.
Gorgeous.
Now, up next, the toilet mistakes as you're eating. That could be harmful for your health.
That pesto.
Oh, that pesto. OK, come back to us in a few minutes.
Perfect coffee every time. Tassimo sponsors Cookery on Ireland AM.
You're very welcome back. Edward Hayden's food was absolutely delicious.
But it went right through you, didn't it?
When nature calls, did you know changing position on the toilet can really make a difference?
Oh, yes. I told my fella about this last night and he was very excited. Physiotherapist and women's pelvic health specialist, Aoife Harvey, is here to show us the perfect posture when sitting on one's throne. Aoife, welcome to Ireland AM this morning.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for bringing your toilet with you.
Well, I never leave home without it.
That's what you have to do. Is there a right way and a wrong way to sit in the loo?
There definitely is. And I think the audience and yourselves are going to be quite shocked today at some of the tips I'm going to give you. You think you know how to do a poo, don't you?
So what's wrong with the normal way you do a poo or a wee?
Well, we'll stick to the poos because they're different. We'll stick to the twos, but really bad news for the dads out there who like to leg it off with their phone for about half an hour 3 times a day. That's really not a great idea. And sitting on the toilet for too long can cause things like hemorrhoids and straining and fissures in the back passage, which are not nice. So I want to show you today, Tommy particularly, how to get you on and off that toilet in minutes, and your wife's going to love me.
Well, I don't want to be.
You don't want to be off in minutes.
My moment of peace in the house.
No, well, now she knows it's gone.
Okay, right. So give us some tips.
Okay,
Right.
so first of all, in the Western part of the world, we use toilets.
Yeah.
But in Asia, they still squat down close to the ground because that's a much better position and posture to get your poops out. When you squat really low, it relaxes the muscles around your back passage and helps your poop just fall out instead of sitting there for ages and pushing it, pushing it, pushing it.
It's the same in areas in Europe as well, because sometimes you go into the toilets in there and they just have a hole in the floor.
There's a hole in the ground in certain
places. Europe?
Italy and France.
Oh.
Yeah. In some of the rugby change rooms in times gone by. Don't want to be going in there.
Don't want to be going into those places.
Okay, so
that is the posture.
Yes, squatting as deep as you can.
So how can we do this on our Western loos?
Exactly. An easy solution is a footstool. So if anyone has little kids at home, or you can get them in, I won't mention the shops, but you can get lots of footstools. So Tommy, if you plonk yourself on the toilet.
Of course, the guinea pig here
there
now.
We go.
Okay,
Fair
right.
play to you.
So here, Tommy.
Do I need my phone?
No.
My iPad?
No, it's gone. It's gone.
Oh, I'm not allowed to do that anymore, no. Okay.
90-degree angle you're sitting at here, which is not a squat position. So easy solution and cheap. We're going to pop a little footstool underneath your feet. So lift up. Come on, Tommy. Come on.
I never thought you'd have to learn how to do it.
If my wife walked in and I'm sitting like this, she'd be more frightened. What's it? So
I think we'd all be more frightened, to be honest.
So this is the perfect poo.
Yeah, the perfect poo position. And what's really important, Tommy, while you're here, right, and this is a magic trick, you shouldn't hold your breath or push down. You should make a little hiss noise. So just go hiss.
Okay,
Go on, Tommy.
Do his shoulders need to go back?
No,
do I sit back or do you sit forward?
You lean your arms on your forearms and then straighten your lower back a little bit. Perfect. So you're not pushing down on the nerves that supply your bowel.
So why?
Can you give us a hiss?
Why?
Well, give us the hiss first.
A hiss what?
Yeah.
But the hiss will come out when I'm going. That's the other thing. How do you direct that?
Look, what? You don't wee and poo at the same time.
Sorry.
You don't wee and poo at the same time. Think about when you're standing up to go. Nothing's happening.
He's going to have target practice on the other side of the wall at this rate.
I mean, my street cred, whatever little street cred I had, is different level.
Look, for the people out there, Tommy, who want to know, when you make a hiss sound, it relaxes.
So I have to go. Right.
Yeah. What that does is relaxes the little sphincter muscle at your back passage and lets your poop come out in one go, so not coming out a bit at a time, and then it's easy to get stuck. And if it gets stuck, it gets hard. And if it gets hard, it gets sore, and then you're straining. So you sit like this for a minute, make a little hiss, and it's out.
Is it only for people who have issues?
No, it's for everyone.
And it's to prevent getting issues. Is that comfortable?
No.
No, are you not comfy?
But that means you'd be off in a minute.
Yeah, I know, that's not what I go to the toilet.
Well, then can you just put the seat down and sit there for another 5 minutes like normal, couldn't you?
I don't know, can I?
Well, it depends if your wife is watching or not.
But that's fine. You can absolutely do all this. Does advice differ from men to women?
Not when it comes to bowels. Bladders is different, but bowels is the same. And we shouldn't be sitting on the toilet for 10 or 15 minutes. That can cause hemorrhoids. So sitting on it for a long time using your phone, you're not concentrating on what you're doing. You think it's quite a natural thing, but actually a lot of people struggle getting their poops out and struggle with constipation.
I can imagine that they do.
Not
Amazingly
like
on this
this,
one,
don't.
I'm not going to throw it out to the audience and ask for your text messages about this. Unless you want to. I think I'm going to get himself one of those, though.
It's a bit high. Can you get a lower one? Like.
Well, you're taller and the toilet's a bit low, so, suit yourself.
Okay.
Suit yourself. There we go. It's going to be the most romantic present I have ever gotten him. Tommy, do you have one of those at home?
I do, yeah. We have the kids' ones, yeah.
He's got it there already. And we also want to say a huge thank you to Robbie at City Tiles and Bathrooms for providing us with this toilet that Tommy has literally been carrying around
It's here
all
forever.
day.
Thank you very much.
That is it. Aoife Harvey, who is a specialist in women's pelvic health physiotherapy at the Grange Clinic. Thank you so much for joining us. That was fun. I enjoyed that. You didn't enjoy it at all. Fair play.
Tommy, you were giving me loads back. Just take the advice.
Right.
Need some air
Alan,
fresheners.
What's coming up after 9?
Here, I want to know, if you're sitting on it, why do you get piles if you're sitting there?
Because if you're sitting too long, you're straining down. So the pressure of the poop basically puts pressure on the blood vessels in your back passage.
Now,
there you go.
There we go.
There you
Now,
go.
still to come, we meet the carry man behind one of Tom Cruise's most death-defying stunts. Plus, we're getting a makeup masterclass with Susie O'Neill. See you back here in a few minutes.
Good morning, you're very welcome back to Ireland M. Here's what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock. Very shortly, we're going to be meeting the Kerry man who helped Tom Cruise achieve one of cinema's most dangerous ever stunts. We're going to chat to the Mission Impossible Mike O'Shea at 9:20. He's going to be the man who was behind this. Absolutely incredible. I can't believe Tom Cruise did that jump 5 or 6 times as well. So we're going to be discussing, chatting to him at 9:20. Also this hour, some makeup tips made easy. Who knows? Let's find out more with Warren.
I'm still wondering if Tom Cruise, do you think he can sit on a toilet as well as you, Tommy? I'd say you're better. You're better.
I told you it was a mad show this morning. I told you.
Susie O'Neill is so happy that I've actually talked about that. As I introduced her this morning, Susie, it's lovely to have you here. And Zoe has decided to come back again for more torture of being on the telly. So, Susie, what are we looking at today?
So today we're going to show you how a little bit of eyeshadow, mascara and lips can make a big difference. So just to lift the face, brighten the face and give you a really lovely bright eye.
Because mascara can be a thing, you have to find the right one because it can transfer, it can bleed, all that kind of stuff. It depends on your actual eyelashes.
Even how to apply it as well. There's little tips and tricks that'll really help, like not have any go onto the skin or anything like that.
Look how long hers are. Yeah, we're going to look at Susie for that a little bit later on. Now, he's been munching away in the kitchen since Derek left. Alan, what's going on?
Yeah, we certainly are still eating Edward's girl dinner here. Now, this weekend, we'll see a record-breaking crowd attend the All-Ireland Camogie final between Cork and Waterford. And Derek is in Croke Park this morning. How are you getting on, Derek?
Yes, Al, we're going to be previewing both games a little bit later on at 9:35, both the Camogie and the football. Cian Nolan is with us first from the Croke Park Museum. Cian, this is a must-see for any fans coming up this weekend.
This is pilgrimage. Any football, hurling, camogie fan around the country, you have to pay a visit to the GA Museum here in Croke Park. Just beside us here, we've got our Hall of Fame exhibition. Some of the all-time greats of the game have their memorabilia. You can watch highlights from their careers as well on the touchscreen. And if you come over here to your right...
This is the pinnacle.
This is the Holy Grails. Who knew there were so many of them?
The O'Duffy Cup up for grabs this weekend.
This is what it's all about this weekend, the O'Duffy Cup.
Who are you shouting for, by the way?
I went to college in Waterford, so I got to go for the Dacia this weekend.
Sam Maguire.
I'm a Dub, so I'm very, very happy that the new Sam is back in Dublin. This is the original one. It was first commissioned in 1928, retired in 1987.
And then we have the Liam McCarthy as well. Go on, Limerick.
For the Limerick people, that is the original Liam McCarthy Cup on display there as well. So we've all the original cups on display here in the museum.
All right, we'll have more coming your way, guys. 9:35 this morning as we preview both games in terms of the Camogie, in terms of the women's football. But for now, back to you in studio.
Looking forward to that, Derek.
We compare 14 insurance quotes to get you the best deal. So choose chill and work smarter, not harder.
Yes, Joe, we're broadcasting live here from Croke Park in Dublin here this morning. Coming up at 9:35, we're going to be catching up with Waterford's Shauna Kern talking all things Camogie and Dublin's Jennifer Dunn talking all things football as we preview both the women's Camogie and football ahead of the All-Irelands this weekend and next. So that's all to come in the next half hour or so. Slipping past 9 o'clock here this morning. It's a very wet start, especially across the northern half of the country. Plenty of the wet stuff now hitting parts of Ulster through northern Leinster, in across central and northwestern areas. Good deal of cloud cover elsewhere now, and those light to locally moderate northerly winds. Now, right across today, it is that mixture of cloud cover with plenty of scattered showers out there today. Easing back as we nudge into the back end of the day. Top values again on the muggy and humid side out there this Wednesday. Temps there of 16 to 19, even 20 at tops. And finally then tonight, once again, some scattered showers. Cloud cover then prevailing as we work our way tonight into tomorrow morning with an improving picture. Brighter spells on the cards as we tuck our way into your Thursday with overnight lows no lower than 10 to 13 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up for now. Come back to us live in and around 9:35.
Chill Insurance work harder so you can work smarter. We compare 14 quotes to get you the best deal.
Hello, welcome back. We were chatting about loads of things on the show today as well, you know. But we were chatting earlier on this morning about the survey from Bernard, as you will have heard in the news, about parents being worried about meeting school costs. And Karen says, my daughter's school uses iPads. The iPad last year cost over 700 quid. The books cost over €500. We had to buy the physical books to get a scratch code for uploading onto the iPad. This is a one-time code, so next year I will need to buy the physical books again just to get the new scratch codes. This is such a waste of money, resources, and completely unsustainable. We were talking about climate change earlier on.
How are they allowed to get away with that? Like, you buy the iPad, you spend all that money, and then you still buy the books just to get a code to get access to the iPad.
Well, €500 and being allowed to change the books every year as well.
It's scandalous.
Do we never ask about that?
Surely,
we always ask about that.
Is that not down to the government?
I know, but is
like
it not brought up for Norma Foley every year? So is Sinn Féin not hammering home about this and why it's still allowed to happen?
But we asked for a representative last year from the makers of school books to come in and chat to us. And they didn't.
No,
but sure, why would the school books? It's not up to the school books are making money. Why would they bother?
100%.
If they're not told that you can't
stop changing the curriculum. Yeah.
So listen.
And crests on school uniforms is another thing that we were talking about throughout the morning. Lots of people getting in touch with Sharon says, my child goes to a school in Westmead. Their uniform is a crested jumper, but they also have to get a PE kit consisting of a crested T-shirt, a crested jog bottoms, and a crested hoodie. Plus, they insist on the students only wearing crested school jackets. It's completely unnecessary expense on parents.
Yeah, no.
I mean, for your going out doing your gym stuff, a crested jog, I mean...
But if you could buy the crest for €5,
and
sew it on yourself.
I thought that you would be given the option to do it, but obviously in that school, you have to wear the crested gear, which sounds a bit insane. We were also talking about toilet usage.
We were indeed.
So
Tommy was on the
best boy in the class.
The perfect way to do your poo. Turns out, Katie said, Aoife is right. Using a stool while doing my business has made everything a lot easier. Don't knock it till you try it.
Now, this is not a stool that you...
So it's like...
Oh, yeah.
Getting the legs up here.
This is not the stool that you deliver.
It's not a stool sample. No.
You're struggling to deliver that stool.
Baby stool.
But the stool on, with a different stool.
David, my girlfriend told me I was sitting on the toilet wrong. That's when you know you're in love, when your girlfriend can look at your posture on the toilet to be like, you're doing something wrong. You two are getting married. And that's why I found it so hard to go. I might have laughed in her face at first, but I'm glad I listened to her. Turns out she is always right.
So, Tommy, just turn slightly to the side there and show us the position that you should be in.
Just legs up higher.
Legs up like
and
that.
not on your phone. So Pat says I always go on the phone in the bathroom. Turns out that messed up my posture. Probably best that I don't use it anymore. Not the cleanest. Imagine.
No. Anyway, up next, we meet the Irishman who helped Tom Cruise with one of the most death-defying stunts ever in cinema. We'll see you back here shortly.
Not the cleanest.
we're buzzing about this one. Our next guest is an adventurer from Kerry who has become one of the most in-demand guys in Hollywood when it comes to action-packed stunts.
Yes, Mike O'Shea has worked on the likes of Star Wars, James Bond to Mission Impossible. Before we chat to Mike, here's a look at this epic Tom Cruise motorbike stunt that will win an Oscar if that comes through, if they start doing it for stunts to be included in the Oscars. Have a look at this.
This is far and away the most dangerous thing we've ever attempted. We've been working on this for years. We're going to shoot it in Norway, and it'll be a motorcycle jump off a cliff into a base jump. I wanted to do it since I was a little kid.
Mike O'Shea, one of the men behind creating that big stunt, setting up this guy. Having to go collect all the bikes, because Tom Cruise, of course, did that 7 times.
Yeah, 7 times in one day, yeah, it was amazing.
7 bikes?
Yeah, 7
and
bikes.
You were sent down to go collect them all?
We had 15 bikes in total, so I'm glad he only did 7 jumps.
So how did that come about, Mike?
I had worked on Mission 6 previously up in Norway as well, and it was on a cliff scene, so all the helicopter scene where they were fighting on the cliff stuff. So we did all the servicing for that, helicopter pads, put in all the access points and stuff like that, and then did safety for a lot of the work on it. So that kind of, then it rolled on to the next one where they came to me and they said, right, we're looking at doing this stunt. And it was actually it was just at the start of COVID. So it was like, I was sitting at home in Dingle, like with a pen and paper, and we're trying to look on Google Maps and pick different places in Norway to go and look at. And then it was a case of like come up with the initial idea, which obviously that all came from Cruise. He wanted to do this stunt. This is the big one he wanted to do and he said since he was a kid.
What, a parachute? Like a
motorbike with a parachute,
Because
yeah.
you're saying he's going 50 miles an hour off that ramp.
Yeah. So from our point of view, that was the initial part, was coming up with the concepts. Then it was to basically get out to Norway to have a look at where we could potentially do this.
And did you scout loads of different locations?
Yeah, so it actually took more time to get to Norway than it did scouting. It took 2 days to get to. During COVID, it took me 2 days,
right.
6 flights and 2 days to get to Norway, and I was on most of the planes on my own. And then we did 2 days by helicopter, just looking at different sites and stuff like that. We found exactly what we were looking for, you know.
And then do you, like, when you see the site then, obviously you go and ask permission from somebody, the government or wherever.
Yeah.
And then when we see that massive bill there, how long does that bill take you?
That bill there took 5 weeks.
5 weeks?
5 weeks, and I suppose, you know, that's a very, very different bill than you would, like, we built one in London first, 110 metres long, as a tester, to see how that would work, and then
it's London there.
Yeah, we tested that one, and then the follow-on to that was to take it to Norway. So I went to Norway then, but it was like 280 tons of scaffolding, which was all flown in by helicopter. Like, obviously, there's no access to the top of that cliff by road or any other way, so everything was flown in by helicopter. We used to get a helicopter to work in the morning, get a helicopter home in the evening. All of our equipment came in by helicopter. So we were using helicopters like we'd use a forklift.
Okay, well, that's what we were talking about the environment earlier on.
But can I ask you, Mike, just one thing? Like, budgets on that, are you given a budget, or is there just like, go and do it, we want it? So
everything is budgeted to the last penny. Okay. Like, you know, but budgets are tight. The film, everyone thinks the film is he just throws money at everything, okay? And it does, you know, everything is very, very well planned out. I mean, financially, every movie is going to make money, and it's, you know, the cost overruns can happen very quick. So everything in a movie is budgeted really tight.
And listen, you're a Kerry man, proud Kerry man.
Yeah.
hanging out with Tom Cruise. Like, I mean, does he push the boundaries all the time? Like, is he up for a laugh as well?
He's actually. I get on very well with him. He's good fun. Him and Macquarie are both good fun. You can have a good laugh with him. But I mean, I've never actually worked with someone so not, I won't say intense, but someone who is so driven. And like, even if you look at the stunt, like, I mean, the practice he put into, like, he had obviously years of motorbike driving, he had years of parachuting, and then he specifically started training for the stunt. So while we were in the UK building the first ramp, he was out, cross-country jumping with motorbikes. He was base jumping every day. Then he came down to us, did some training runs with us on the initial ramp. And even while we were building the ramp in Norway, he was still flying over the top of us in a helicopter at the speed of the motorbike and then jumping out of the helicopter at the front of the ramp. So
really?
his intensity and his preparation is phenomenal. I've never actually worked with anybody any time in my life that puts in the level of preparation and also an amazing technical understanding. His technical ability and his technical understanding is actually frightening.
Because if you look back on the Mission Impossible films, he loves the bike stunts. He loves them. He's always doing them.
Even Top Gun
as well. Yeah.
How did you get into this role? Where did this come about?
Going way back, I did stuff on War of the Buttons, the David Putnam down in West Cork, and then I tried getting into the film industry, and it's actually quite difficult. It's a very hard industry to break into. And then it was 2014 where they came to Ireland to shoot Star Wars on Skellig. And we had been doing the safety on Skellig for about 25 years at that stage.
So what, were you in construction? Or?
So I was basically, I run a safety business, and it was basically doing scaffolding, rope access, rope safety, train the Coast Guard rescue team. So I kind of do a lot of specialist training as well for rescue teams and for rope safety people and stuff like that. So that's kind of my background. And that just kind of tied into the film industry quite nicely. So we were able to offer them a service on Skellig that kind of fulfilled their needs. And we could get a few things across the line that they wouldn't get other teams to do. So we put in a big effort on that. And then they came back again to shoot again 2015. They came back 2016. And then I started going internationally. They brought me to Bolivia with them. And then it's just rolled since then, since like 2016.
So your name then was known. And
so
now
you're
looking for stunts because you worked on the last James Bond one, No Time to Die. Yeah. What was the stunts?
But you see, a lot of it, I'm very, I suppose, in a unique position that I've done so many different things in life. So I could actually be doing any role. I've done aerial coordinator, I've done marine coordinator. On James Bond, I did transport in Jamaica. I did picture cars, so all the cars and background cars and stuff in Italy. So my role varies with every job, which is great because I'm not kind of cooped into a role anywhere, which I enjoy being flexible like that.
Amazing opportunity. There's downsides though. Like are you ever at home?
Well, that is the big downside. Is like, I mean, I certainly have. I've done a big run now. Like before Christmas, I was away for 3 months shooting Dune 2 in Jordan. Then I came home, and then I was in Svalbard with Mission Impossible 8, and then got home for 2 days, changed my baggage clothes, and went to Morocco. So kind of went from -30 to +30 in 2 days. Like, so that was a bit of a shock to the system. So the downside, I suppose, is you're away a lot, but it's all like when you're away, you're so immersed in it. You just get totally immersed in it.
On the set? Like, who does all the designing then? Do you have a
So it depends. It depends what we're doing. So like with this project here, I suppose with the ramp in particular, I mean, that was a huge Irish. That was a big Irish team. So we had a mix of Irish with some English. But then we had the guys, Conor McGrath from Doolin, who's well known in the rescue circles, Cian O'Driscoll and Dingle. Shane McCauley here from Wicklow. So there was the mad mix of guys from Connemara. There's New Zealanders living up in Sligo.
That must have been great fun.
No, that's the great thing about it is these jobs, when I can bring a team together like that, the banter and the fun that we have is great. And that you can see the work environment we're in. I mean, the first 3 days we were there, we got snowed off. So we had to come back. One day we had to walk all the way down there, get helicopter at the last minute. We had hurricane storms that blew bits off the ramp while we were building it. So it's a tough environment. So you need a very tough team. And in fairness, very hard to beat an
Irish there.
Very hard to beat an Irish team anywhere,
In the Mission Impossible one that we've just seen, it's part 1. So it's part 2. Is there going to be massive stunts in that as well?
There is. Some of the stuff he's getting ready for that is pretty...
Have they not filmed? I thought they filmed it all together, no?
No.
Oh, they're filming
so we were in Svalbard earlier this year working on
the neck. Go on, what's he doing? Go on.
Sorry, boys. All signed up in the agreement. Can't say nothing,
An NDA.
Whenever you have so many Irish there and so many characters, like, is he up for the crack? Do you slag him off at all? Or
you can. I mean, himself and Macquarie are good fun. Like, I mean, they're very intense when they're working, and that is it. Like, but I mean, outside of work, they're good fun. They're actually good fun to be around.
And for people who wanted to get into that line of work, you said it's quite difficult to break into. Is there an option there for a lot of Irish people to get that?
There is a lot of Irish people. I just came back from Morocco working on Gladiator 2. And it was the first time. Normally, I'm one of a handful of Irish people. It was the first time I'd actually seen Irish everywhere. Like, you know? I mean, there was another girl from Dingle working on us, Ciara McKenna, and there was, there was loads and loads of Irish people. Paul Mescal, yeah. So there was people all over the place, and it was amazing to be in an environment with so many Irish people. On a movie, So there's a lot of Irish people are actually getting out there internationally now as well.
And, take over. And of course, the writer's strike at the moment. Then is that going to? Do you think that's going to really impact? Like when you say the next Mission Impossible, so everything's on hold. I suppose
everything's on hold. Yeah, and I suppose a lot of the big problem for a lot of movies is fine for the studio stuff, but it's certainly a lot of the stuff that I do, which is international and is weather dependent and seasons of the year. It's certainly going to affect that because I mean anything that was planned for the next 3 or 4 months, matching a weather window.
It's gone.
It's gone, so it's going to have to get pushed. So that's going to be interesting to see where that all ends up,
Like, you were the first Irish person to fly across the Irish Sea using a powered paraglide. So you're like a stuntman as well as this whole safety
I suppose I'm into the whole outdoor scene. I suppose I spent, from a very young age, I started climbing when I was 13 or 14 in Kerry. Kind of went on to the Alps, onto the Himalayas, and then got into paragliding. And there's a guy from County Meath, Kyle Fowler, flew across the Irish Sea with me. And that was just a last-minute haphazard thing. I was actually working on a movie that day, and I snuck off the set, and we flew across the Irish Sea, and then flew back again. And then,
as you do,
this footage here is from South Korea. We get invited by the South Korean government to go flying in South Korea. And the main reason we went is, with a paramotor, you're not allowed to fly over, any towns or cities and stuff like that. And they gave us the opportunity, 1 hour free to fly in the city. And off we went, like, I mean, it was just it was just mad.
Off we go. They gave the wrong man permission.
Mike, it's fascinating. It really is. It's an amazing career to have. It really
congratulations.
is. Thank you very much.
Continued success to you and everybody involved in it. I mean, such big stunts, and hopefully if the Oscars do bring in stunts into the next one and Tom Cruise hopefully does win it, hopefully you'll be there beside him.
Well, I think for that one he definitely deserves it.
Thanks very much.
All right, thanks guys. Thank you very much.
We compare 14 insurance quotes to get you the best deal. So choose chill and work smarter, not harder.
Yes, thanks very much, Joe. We're going to be previewing both the women's camogie and football finals. We're going to hop back inside in a few moments' time, so that's all to come. Hang with us for that. Quick look at weather. No budge in terms of those showers out there this morning, especially across the northern half of the island into parts of Leinster as well. So stay nice and dry. Good deal of cloud cover the further south we sink now in that northerly airflow. Now, right across today, once again, it's a struggle in terms of bright spells. Not really much of it out there today. In fact, plenty of rain, easy back to scattered showers across today. Top 10 smuggy, quite humid out there today as well, 16 to 19 at best. And finally then tonight, more rain to start than easing back to scattered showers as we work away tonight into tomorrow morning with temperatures no lower than 10 to 14 degrees. So that's your weather for now. We're going to pop back inside Croke Park and come back to us live in a few moments' time.
Chill Insurance work harder so you can work smarter. We compare 14 quotes to get you the best deal.
Hello, you're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us.
There's still plenty of action to take place in Croke Park for this weekend's All-Ireland Camogie finals to the Ladies Football Championship final next week.
Yes, and Derek is in Croke Park for us this morning. Who you got, Derek?
Big weekends of sport coming down the track in terms of the...
Hello, Derek.
Hello, Derek.
Hi.
There you are. Can you hear us?
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you very much, team. We're live here in Croke Park, right across the morning. Of course, two more big weekends of sport in terms of the women's camogie and football finals this weekend and next. Join us now are Shauna Curran. She is Waterford selector and former Waterford player, as well as Jennifer Dunn. She is midfielder with the women's football team. Good morning to you. We'll start with you, Shauna. Waterford waiting a long, long time.
Yeah, 78 years since our last senior All-Ireland final appearance, so we're really looking forward to it. There's great excitement in the county and in the camp. So
1945, it's a long wait,
yeah,
right?
It is.
Starved of a bit of silverware.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've been building, the last couple of years with junior titles and intermediate titles, so we're finally back on the big stage and we're really looking forward to it.
The semi-final down in Thurles and Tip, it was a great match against Tipperary, in fact.
Yeah, it was in Nolan Park against Tip. a massive day for us.
Or Kilkenny, pardon me.
Sorry,
yes,
yeah, Kilkenny. A great occasion. There was huge support there from Waterford. It was a brilliant day, and to get over the line against Tip, we've had some massive battles over the years, so we were just thrilled with our own performance, I suppose, on the day, and then obviously getting through to the final.
The O'Duffy Cup up for grabs. You have tough contenders now, tough opponents in terms of Cork.
Oh yeah, look, massive test. You know, Cork are there. I don't know, is it 4 finals in the last 5 or 6 years? So, you know, they're well versed in it. So, you know, we know the task that's ahead. We're really looking forward to it. You know, a lot of confidence in the camp and in the county. So, as I said, looking forward to the day, and you know, massive test. But that's what it's all about on All Ireland final day.
All of Waterford, I believe, are behind you this weekend, aren't they?
Yeah, there won't be enough seats by the sounds of it from people I've met. But yeah, look, a great hurling county, very proud hurling county, and you know, massive support out there, and the weather won't dampen them. I know there's people travelling by the busload, so you know, hopefully we put on a good display for them, and I know the crowd will get behind the girls.
And I believe one of the players back in 1945, she's still alive and kicking?
That's right. Maura Kern was full back, I think, on the day. I believe she was 18 the day of the All Ireland final. So she's 97 years young
97.
now. So,
Good morning to you, Maura, if you're tuned in nice and early this morning.
So you know, great piece of history, and like, look, hopefully we'll be bringing the cup back.
The O'Duffy Cup back to the Daoise County.
Absolutely, yeah.
Jennifer, Dublin, 4 in a row, back in 2016, yes?
2017 to 2020, yeah, they did the 4 in a row. So that was obviously a very exciting time. I was lucky to be involved for 3 of them. And again, kind of building again on this year. Last year we obviously lost in the quarter-final stage and in the final in 2021 to meet the year before. So the last 2 years haven't gone our way, but we're looking forward to a final now against Kerry in the next 2 weeks.
And it's another clash against Kerry. Yeah. The men did it at the weekend. Now it's the ladies' turn. How are you fixed in terms of the setup?
Yeah, no, we're really looking forward to it. I think Kerry are a really good outfit, and they've showed this year they made the final last year and lucky to lose out to Meath that year. So they've been building as well, and they've some really good footballers. But we're just focusing on ourselves, and we're just looking forward to the challenge. And again, obviously the men had a good win, so we just hope that we can keep pushing on. And
injury worries at the moment. How are we looking?
No, everyone's good and fit. So again, just the next 2 weeks will just be all about us and focusing on that and building and just putting in a performance in the day.
And how's camp? How's preparation been?
Yeah, very exciting. Everyone's buzzed. I think building and working towards an All-Ireland final is where you want to be, and everyone's just really excited. So we can't wait for that. Yeah.
And a big support as well. I can imagine Hill 16 is going to be jammed once again.
Yeah, hopefully. Obviously, a lot of the Dubs came out there at the weekend, as you could see. So hopefully they'll get a good crowd again, and we can put on a performance and just do everyone proud in Dublin. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, before we let you go, ladies, we're not going to let you go, in fact, without a challenge. So you're going to pop in here. I believe you're going to hit a couple of balls for Waterford. Are you up for it?
Well, it might be a late call up.
It might be a late call, but Cian, pop in here. We're going to do a bit of a running commentary. What are we going to be doing here first?
So this is our hurling and camogie interactive here. So this is a speed gun that actually tests how fast Shauna can hit the slitter here.
All right,
so no
Shauna, we're giving you 2 balls. All of Waterford here are watching this morning. Yes, that?
Top right.
Top right. 3, 2, 1. Fire her in. Oh, here we go. We're reading your speed here now, Shauna. What did she get, Cian?
So it's coming up now, 85 kilometres an hour.
All right, Shauna, you're getting a second one now to top it. Can she do it? Come on, Waterford. Oh!
You notice the strikes get more and more competitive.
Oh, 90! Well done, Shauna. Flying it. Right, over here, Cian, what have we got?
So this is our football interactive here, all right? So it's accuracy. So we've got 3 targets there. 1, the bottom right being the largest, top left being the medium, and 3 in the middle being the smallest.
Okay, so Jennifer, are you feeling confident, Jennifer?
I'm not too sure.
All right, no pressure now. Yeah. Up the Dubs, come on. Oh! Over the bar, lovely. Okay.
We'll go for the middle. We'll
go for the middle, go for the goal. Oh! A goal for the Dubs, there we go. Shauna, of course, women having a moment in sport right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the girls in green down in Australia making their own piece of history. So it's great. And look, women's sport is going from strength to strength. And I suppose the more it's in the media and the more coverage it gets, you know, to show off the skills that are there in both, you know, camogie, ladies football, women's sport in general. So it's brilliant to see.
So you're shouting for Dubs in the football?
Yeah.
You're shouting for Waterford in the camogie. Yeah. There we have it. Back to you guys in studio. Best of luck, girls.
So much.
Girls, yeah, Derek. I'm going for Waterford.
Yeah, Waterford, love it. Oh, yeah, it's a family. Listen, coming up next, we're going to be talking about makeup. We'll talk to you very shortly on Ireland Day. Welcome back to Ireland AM. Now, if you want that flawless look but find TikTok tutorials too confusing, too much, well, this morning makeup artist Susie O'Neill is here with her easy-to-follow tips. And Susie, lovely to have you here along with Zoe. You've broken them down into 3 key areas today. What are we focusing on?
Yeah, so today we're going to have a look at eyes, lips, and then setting your makeup.
Setting makeup. Oh, I need to talk about this. So let's start with eyes. What do you want to do first?
So I'm going to just show you really quickly how just light and shade can really change the eye.
So we've got half the face done.
Half the face done.
A little bit, right? And we're just going to start on the eyes here,
Yeah, so I'm going to start with a really nice light colour just under Zoe's brow here. And what that'll do is just lift up the brow area and brighten that area. So it just gives you a little bit of a facelift. And then on the inner corner as well, just to bring that area out, because it's where we pool a lot of shadow.
And
so
does that matter if you've got a hooded eye?
No, well, this is great if you've hooded eye because it actually gives you space there. So it gives the illusion of more space around the eye. And then also by putting it here, it lifts it up. So again, it gives the illusion of more space. I always say to people, makeup is an illusion of, it's just light and shade. It's bringing things out and bringing things back where you want to, like what you highlight
what
to
you
bring
want to
forward.
Highlight.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely.
So then we're going to go in with a little blender brush and just a nice kind of taupe colour and bring it into her crease. So by bringing it into her crease here, if you do have hooded eyes, what you do is if you open your eye for me for a sec, so when you see the lash line here, you can just bring your brush in and bring it in and out, so you create a crease.
Okay.
So if you don't have one, this is the best way to do it, to make it look like you actually have a crease where you might not.
And it does matter how you're holding it, right? Lightly.
Yeah. So
don't be stabbing yourself in the eye.
I always hold my brushes down here so that the end of the brush sits into the little space here between my thumb and my index finger, because it means then if I'm trying to go hard, it's just pushing it back into my hand rather than the lid. And it means you just get the application with the tip of the brush, which just means that you're going to, that's where the brush is shaped perfectly. Yeah. They're all cut and shaped so that you use the tip of them. If you go real hard in it, you're going to have shadow all
You're not
going to
look like you've given yourself a black eye, essentially, is what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
So just a little bit of a crease line there. And then you can go underneath the eye as well with that same colour. If you have smaller eyes, you want to make them appear bigger, just bring a little bit of that shadow underneath the eye as well.
Oh, that's the illusion that it opens up the eye.
Yeah, exactly. So when you put on a concealer and you have all the dark circle gone, that can actually sometimes make the eye look a little smaller. So by putting a small bit of shadow under the lash line, it just brings out the eye a little bit again.
Definition a little bit more. I gotcha.
Yeah.
What is our next step today?
So the next bit, I'm going to put on a little bit of mascara, just a small coat. So mascara is something that can really open the eye.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would always say is try and go with, if you find that yours smudges at all, try and go with one that's water resistant rather than waterproof. Waterproof can be very drying on the eyes and they can actually snap the lashes, whereas water resistant will set and stay in place, but it won't damage the lashes.
And does mascara change as we age? You know, say, because it's having an effect on what's going on with the actual texture of the hair?
Well, really, I think you could use any. It's just that, like that waterproof ones just tend to be drier.
They're just dry and that's what the crunchy sort of look.
Exactly.
Okay.
Ours here has hyaluronic acid in it as well, so that you're keeping the lashes nicely hydrated as well as
They're putting
water.
hyaluronic acid in mascara these days.
Yeah.
Lads.
We're very fancy.
You're very fancy. So grab it from the root. What is your feeling on mascara, the things, the curlers?
The curls. I do love a nice eyelash curler.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it every day because, again, you don't want to damage the lashes. And if I'm using a lash curler, I would invest in a good one because some that aren't really great can
pull. They really can pull. Yeah, so it does affect. And it's your eye.
Exactly.
What are we going to next?
So next, I am going to go in with a little bit of lip balm. So this is Balm Ireland's lip balm. It is fab. It's actually multi-purpose balm, so you could use it like you would your Elizabeth Arden 8-Hour Cream on the top of the cheeks, across the eye. But I do think that a nice, healthy glow on the lips always makes you look nice.
Yeah, and
fresh.
it can be a step that we forget about. I know that I do. Like, you can feel really dehydrated in the morning.
Yeah.
So do kind of bring it back
I think so.
into
And then,
the
you know,
routine.
if you're out and about and if your lips are dry, you just want something just to give you a little bit of glow in that area. And then finally, setting the makeup. So for me, I think as we get older, we don't want to put too much powder on the face. A little bit is perfect where you shine, but essentially we want to keep the glow.
Yeah.
And so
But just with the lips, would you then line them? What would you say to that?
So if I actually did that before I came on, so I was
like, she did a bit of liner. I was like, is there a bit of liner there? So you put the lip balm on to prep the lips.
Yeah.
And then with liner, because I was very nervous about this, kind of thinking I was going to be doing the 90s look where it was concealer in the middle and liner all. So you need one that's close to the colour, do you?
Absolutely. So I would always suggest going with a natural lip liner, regardless of whether you're wearing a red lip or a plum lip or just a natural lip.
Okay.
Because for me then, if your lipstick fades, you're not going to see a big red line around the lips.
Yeah.
You know the way, so it's good because it's going to stain it. And then we all have this little white line around our lips and there's a little red line within the lip.
Yeah.
So depending on if you want to make them bigger or smaller, that's the line you're going to trace. Anything else is going to be noticeable.
So the red line if you want to make them smaller, the white line if you want to make them bigger?
A little plumper.
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
so I'm going to follow along Zoe's white line there just to give her a little bit of extra plump. She's got a lovely shaped lip as well.
You do. Zoe, lovely shaped lip. You do.
One of the lucky ones.
But one of the things with this is I've kind of got used to, because I'm not great at putting it on, of kind of just smudging it afterwards.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Smudge it, don't have the hard line, just kind of
You
rub
just
it in.
always want to get the ring finger and just blend it through.
Lovely. So that's what we do
Absolutely.
there. Now, let's set makeup, because I am... Because you're all, you know, you don't want to be too shiny in the telly, and they're always like, you're too shiny.
Well, exactly. Well, I'm going to use the Ella and Joe 3-in-1 hyaluronic acid skin mist. I'm always telling people to have something like this in their handbags, because during the day, as your makeup kind of wears, or, you know, you're in between heat and air conditioning, even the bright lights, it can have effect on the makeup. So something like this will just keep it hydrated and keep it set.
So rather than a powder?
Yeah. So you could still, because you're in the bright lights, if you have your powder on, but then you don't want to look matte, just go in with a little bit of skin mist over. Sorry, Zoe. And it's going to just really nicely set the makeup. It'll rehydrate it. So again, if you're worried about if you're worried about shine or anything like
That's
that,
lovely.
It'll just bring it back to life without then altering the makeup or moving it.
Absolutely gorgeous. And Zoe, maybe Susie will do the other side of your face
Hopefully,
as well when
hopefully.
we finish up. This is gorgeous. And of course, from AU Makeup, Susie O'Neill, thank you so much for joining us. For a look at what's coming up tomorrow, it's over to Tommy and Alan.
Thank you very much, Myrne. Tommy's dying to read out some poo stories.
Oh, Lauren and Clara, about your poo stool's the perfect pasta for pooing.
We were talking about this earlier on.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Now, on tomorrow's show, I'm coming live from the Galway races.
Yeah, and we're going to be reviewing the latest cinema releases, which sees the return of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Hero Turtles, I get it. Plus, we're going to elevate your bank holiday barbecue with some Michelin-starred wine.
Get out there and buy yourself a poo stool. Way forward.
See you from 7 in Galway tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
A poo wrap.